Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Business of Business podcast, Two Daughters and Their Dad. I'm your host, Stacey J. Dempsey. And like always, per usual, thankfully, I have the other daughter and the one and only dad, Jennifer and Dad, not the J word, not the J name.
Good
That's right.
morning.
So we welcome you guys back to this episode, and we want to hit on a topic that we really haven't really talked much about, and that is the pros and cons of franchising. I know I definitely do business and go places that are a franchise. And there are some really interesting ways to go about when you start to look into becoming a franchise or joining a franchise chain. And then there also can be some maybe some things you guys haven't thought about. Maybe some cons that you haven't really thought about. Because the franchise, it really is very appealing, I think, to those who like a particular niche. For example, the gym that I belong to, they are a franchise, which I really didn't know that up until most recently. But the owners of that franchise, they work another 9 to 5 job. And so I think there's some really great things about when you want to join a franchise. So let's jump right into this. So Dad, this was your idea this was your topic. So why don't you just start sharing with our listeners a little bit about kind of what was on your thought process at 5:30 this morning in the gym, dreaming about
Well, before I
franchises.
jump into that, just in case people pick up on it in her tone of voice, Jennifer's a little upset with me because I spoiled her daughter this past weekend and had a whole bunch of fun doing it. So,
And
so
he didn't answer my phone call when I called
no,
him.
because
He
I
knew
knew you
he
were
was
going to
in
yell at me.
trouble.
I
And
knew.
then I had to text him, like, how dare you? Christmas is very soon. So
Well, I
he's
took her
in trouble
shopping
with me.
I said, let's go shopping for mommy. And she said, okay. And then, of course, it was like, Pop, do you think I would look pretty in this dress? What am I supposed to do? Say, yeah, probably. Like, oh, yes, let's buy it so you can. So,
Uh-huh.
anyway,
Which
forgive
leads me
me.
to my next question. When are you picking my kids up? You have
Well,
1,000 grandkids. That
I
can get
know.
expensive quickly. So
Yeah,
I'll
well,
let you check
if
your
you want to, if you
schedule.
want to shut down the spoiling, that would be the way to do it. Just toss them all at me at one time.
Yeah, right.
But,
Right.
but on our topic, franchising, because first of all, I just would encourage our listeners. I mean, one of the magazines I've been getting for years and is Entrepreneur Magazine, and there, and it's a magazine that does have articles in there for entrepreneurs, that are good articles, equipping type articles. But the other thing that is really the driver of the magazine is around franchising. So they do give a lot of, again, categorically, different franchises based on category, food, self care, um, medical, all these different categories, and then kind of list, what are some of the most popular franchises. So again, it's a very it's a very good publication to get, even if you're not doing franchising, because it usually has good articles in it that will help your business. But it's just interesting. So I've always been tracking and found franchising to be a very interesting business concept. Now, as most people know, if you're, when you look around and you see franchises, um, what you're buying into is a system, is the way I would describe it. When you buy into a franchise, you're buying into a system that's already built out. So obviously the investment up front is going to be probably more than if you took that business, whatever that output is of your business, and did that independently, because you could probably scale smaller starting out and then hope you could scale up as as revenue went up. So it's going to be it's going to be more investment up front. So you need to make sure you would be financially positioned to do that. But again, having the pros of it would be, it's an already established system. You would have brand recognition, so people are going to be familiar with the brand. For example, look at your franchise pizza places. You have Domino's, you have Papa John's. These are all franchises with very strong brand recognition. But if you drive by pretty much every strip center, there's a pizza place in it. It's either a franchise or it's something maybe more independent, with one location. But, but again, you're buying into that system, your distribution. I mean, the products, all the things that you need are already well established. The systems, whether it be, your technology, how you handle your accounts receivables, all that has already been systematized. So again, a huge benefit to buying into a franchise. Now, what's the big downside? Jennifer, what do you think the big downside is?
That you also have to follow their systems, probably, right? So you don't have like 100% freedom to maybe run the business how you would run it, right? I'm sure there's probably things in place that you have to do things a certain way, which in my mind can be obviously a good thing, and maybe at times not be such a great thing either.
Well, that's exactly right. Because again, you have your initial cost of buying into the franchise, and then most franchises are going to have, what they would call, like a royalty type
Right.
of, based on some formula of royalties, and that you would pay based off of, off of sales, or, if it's food distribution, a lot of times you're buying the product, from them,
Right.
um, so, or both. I mean, let's look at a very popular franchise like a Chick-fil-A. Obviously they're not allowing, each independent owner of those Chick-fil-A's to go out and work their own deals on where they get their chicken and where they get their food products to sell. They're, the owners of those operations are buying it through Chick-fil-A.
Right.
And again, and I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but there's probably even other royalties, that need to be paid in addition to that. So you're paying on an ongoing basis, for the benefit of, operating that franchise and having those systems and branding, you know, um, at your fingertips, so, and not having to reinvent that. So, I mean, again, my thought around franchising is, what's your business? What are you looking to, start a business in? So we'll take like your business, Jennifer. You're in the beauty business, the hair business. So you are not a franchise. You're an independent operator. So, but what could you have done? And when you came and said, I want to open my own salon, what would have been your other choice?
Yeah, I mean, in our industry, we obviously have franchises. I think a popular one is Great Clips, right? We've all kind of heard of that. And so the business model around that kind of franchise is quantity over quality.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think if you align with that, if you come from that world, then that might make sense to you. I think when it comes to franchising, it's more about like, I have this desire to be an entrepreneur, but maybe I don't have this like idea or this vision to start from scratch. So you can kind of get plugged in. And because my salon is in a strip mall, I've kind of seen it over the years, of different kind of franchises coming in and moving out. One that comes to mind is we have what's that pretzel place called?
Pretzel
Pretzel
Factory.
Pretzel Factory in the strip. Now, I've been here almost years in the strip mall in my location. And I want to say it's turned hands probably 3 or 4 times, right? Different owners. And what, number one, I think we talked about this before, Dad, like, how do you make money off of pretzels is the first question I have. But the second thing I've realized as I kind of witnessed that is that, you come to my strip mall around lunchtime, pretzel factory is booming, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter. No one even knows. The consumers don't really know that maybe it's changed owners, um, because it's still the same product is being produced each and every day. So it doesn't necessarily matter who's running the behind the scenes. You're still going to come to the pretzel factory, get the same pretzel and whatever they have. But from someone that's kind of, I'm here every single day and know what's going on behind the scenes, I'm like, wow, it's changed hands quite a few times. And from an outsider looking in, the volume is still there. So I think that's huge for franchises if you're thinking about that, is that when you're independent and you're creating a business from nothing, like I've done, brand recognition is huge. And so when you to have to build that just takes years, consistency. I can tell you, even after almost 8 years, like, we got people coming into the salon saying, I didn't even know there was a salon here. And it like kills me inside, because you're like, what? All this marketing, everything all that, everything we're putting into letting people know that there's a salon here. And then you still have people saying, I didn't know there was a salon here. So brand recognition probably would be like the major pro for me on this topic is, you can just have that conversation. Like, did you hear they're putting a Hand and Stone in down the street? And there's no, what's Hand and Stone, right? But when I put my sign up, people are like, what is J Faith Hair Studio? Right? What is that? So you kind of the consumers already know what to expect when they walk into a franchise, right? But when you're independent, you're starting out from nothing, there's that, what is this? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? So for me on the franchise topic, I think that would be the biggest pro that comes along with that. And then again, the con for me would be just being able to make those business decisions. I've been in that place before where you're boxed in. I can remember a lot around charity. I'm really passionate about giving back. And when you're working for someone else, or maybe you're boxed into a franchise, there's just some things you're never going to be able to do. And that creative side of you can get a lot of pushback from going outside of the box. Speaking of pretzel factory, again, just because it's in my strip, the last owners made their own kind of pretzel. So they made, I forget what it was, but it was good. It was like, a hot dog pretzel, something that was not the franchise, they don't do. He created his own pretzel and he got in a lot of trouble about that and had to stop doing it. So I remember that was the complaint. But I guess you could probably sell franchises pretty easily too, because I've seen it happen quite a few times. So I don't know what that would look like from an independent person, but there's a lot to go. There's a lot of pros and cons, I think, when it comes to franchises.
Well, one of the things that
Just
you
as I
just
mentioned before, right in the beginning, the gym that I belong to is a franchise. And when I was talking with the owner, Deb, she's worked in a casino for the last, 25 years, and always had a passion for fitness and for helping people through fitness. They had opened their gym in January of 2020. So we know what happened March of 2020, right? But she said, through the franchise opportunity was her way of being able to really, kind of already be plugged into a business concept, which she said she's always wanted to own her own business, but she knew that she still wanted to keep, her career in the casino. But this was her opportunity to, be in business and to kind of fulfill that dream that she had, but also just to kind of elevate and her passion for fitness and helping others with their health. And she said, if it wasn't for the franchise way, I would have never been able to do this, because of exactly what you guys have already shared, that, what supplements that you need to have, sell in the gym, down to the systems, down to the app that we use to, reserve what class we want to take. All of that is already laid out. Now, she did mention that, the fees that she still has to pay for those things, that is a frustrating area, because if they increase the price, they increase the price. And you have to sell those products. You have to use that app. You have to, use, where people, to pay for their reoccurring classes and things like that. So if on that side, if things go up, she has no way of also kind of filtering that down in any way, in some aspects to the consumer, because she gets a price increase. She has no way. So that can be a frustrating aspect of it. But for someone that still kind of wants to stay in the career they're doing, and just kind of have a lot of the figuring things out and researching, took all of that out of the equation for her. And obviously, going into March of 2020, she still has hiring issues. She still has, March of 2020, the workouts were outside, and but she still was able to, obviously they're still doing very well now, but my point in saying some of that was that the universal problems, whether franchise or not, are still there, like trying to find people to hire, and getting people to your location and things like that. But
Well, say,
definitely a
Stace,
great alternative.
yes, one of the things that you both hit on, that I think is a benefit to franchising, especially if location is a critical thing for your business, because I've seen a lot of businesses, non-franchise, well, even franchise, but more non-franchised, who, went into a particular location that just didn't work. For whatever reason, it just, the business model seemed fine, but the location didn't work. Maybe it was just, the ability to get in and out in a convenient way, that type of thing. But with franchises, they're going to be, in most cases, much more skilled at helping you determine the right location for that franchise, because they've got the data, they've got the understanding of the demographics and traffic patterns and things like that, that sometimes you just, when you're doing it on your own, you're basing it more off of, yes, location, but also price to rent a space and that type of thing. So, so that's helping you with the location, to put your franchise or your business is one of the big assets. Now, with that being said, you might have your own idea around a location, and the franchise says, nope, we're not going to allow that. Could be territorial, where you're infringing on maybe another franchise's, area, that type of thing. So again, that would come, with some limitations. The other thing that you brought up, Stacy, that I think is important, and it is, you can see it in Jen's business. There's no way that me, for example, that I could, not being in the hair business, that I could open up a J Faith hair studio. There's just no way, because I don't understand the business. I don't do hair. I don't do, I wouldn't be able to do it. However, if I have the resources, I can open a sports clips or a great clips or whatever they call the clips. I could do that because now it's franchised, right? So that's already done. As a matter of fact, I think it's my understanding that a lot of those hair cuttery franchises are actually owned by people that don't do hair. They're just, they've got the money, they open them, and the system's in place. So like you said, Stacy, if you have a person who's looking to say, I want to do a franchise, but I don't want to quit my job. I don't want, those are the kind of franchises you can look at and do. But, so that's another option, is, does the franchise allow me to get into that business without giving up something else where J Faith, I'm all in. I mean, I'm not going to work a full-time job and be able to successfully operate a J Faith. The owner operator of that, like Jen, has to be involved in a very significant way. So again, I think another pro to franchising, from that perspective. Thoughts on that, Jen?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like when you even just going into franchises, comparing them to independent businesses, all the independent businesses that I support on a continuing basis, you always see the owner in there. You always see the owner in there. And so franchises, number one, you don't know who the owner is, and let alone if you see them. So I think kind of the key to even, franchising is, yes, maybe, the startup is still working your job and starting a franchise, but you get a couple great clips under your belt and you get the right people in there to run the business on the day to day. It seems really great. I guess the downside to that, if you had any passion for the hair industry, you probably wouldn't want to go into that business, but into that franchise. So again, I think just where you're at, what you want to be doing. Good for some people, maybe not so good for other people. But now you got me thinking, should I get into the franchise business?
Good.
I still keep this business.
Oh, sure. No doubt. No.
I'm going to Google that later.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that, again, going back to the publication on, entrepreneur publication, it does. I look at a lot of these franchises, and usually it'll give you in there what the range of startup costs are, and so I mean, I was looking at one recently, because you're seeing these new these new car washes popping up, where you drive in them, and then they got the free vacuums, and they're kind of this they're really nice, they're kind of state of the art. You can buy membership, it's like I bought a membership at one. It's like $21 a month for this membership, and sometimes if I'm right there, I'll go through 5 times in a row just because I can, and no, that's an exaggeration. Maybe 2 times in a row. But the point being is, I look at those franchises for those car washes, and like the one I was looking at, like the average startup cost is like $6 million. I'm thinking $6 million. It's like, man, how many $21 car washes do you need every month to pull all that off? But the numbers must work out because you're seeing them, right? You're seeing these car washes, pop up, and so so my point being is, when you look at those numbers, they can be head scratchers for sure. But again, if it's something that you feel that you would be passionate about and have and really have an interest in, it's probably worth looking into in more detail. So, but again, $6 million, you got to have you better have some money behind you to get into that. You're not gonna do that with a few $1,000 in the bank. So that could be a topic for another day on how do you finance some of these things. But again, I think franchising really does, for an entrepreneur, it really does make sense if you really look at it carefully.
Absolutely. I can see the wheels turning in Jennifer's head. What's a franchise that I can look into that would partner well with J
Well,
Faith?
what's so funny, and Dad will probably laugh. For the longest, I've been like, Dad, I really want to open a laundromat. And he's like, you're so weird. What's wrong with you? But I think it's the desire, because of the business that I'm in. I'm always intrigued by businesses that, number one, if you don't need employees, or you don't need that many employees, or you don't need employees with a certain talent. Remember who I am and where I come from, right? So I've always wanted to open a laundromat. And I have a lot of great, memories when I was coming up as a hairdresser, spending a lot of time at a laundromat. And I remember calling dad and complaining, like, I hate this laundromat. I just want an apartment with a washer and dryer. And he would always like have words of encouragement, like, this is a great time. This is so good for you. You can plug in, you can read a book, you can, in dad fashion. And so there's like a little why. So I'm always kind of like, should we open a laundromat, Dad?
Listen, it is not cheap to wash your clothes at a laundromat. When
No,
my
it's
washer
not.
was out for like 2 weeks,
Right.
listen, I was like, how bad do these kids need clean clothes? Because how dirty is this shirt really? Because
You
I
can
was
wear it one more day.
the amount of
But a
cords.
nice laundromat, you know what we would do? We would do it right. So yeah, that's always kind of been like, how can we do that? That would be cool.
Well, it's
And no
interesting because
employees? Come on.
yeah, well, right. I know it's interesting because when I go back to my hometown to, get up to my dad's house, I drive by the Blueville laundromat, and that laundromat has been there because I used to, well, probably at 11 years old, we would all stand in front of that laundromat to catch the bus to go to school. So take my young age and subtract at least 10 years, and that's been there that long. So it definitely has had staying power for quite a few years, and it's a nice place, so all right, it's growing on me. It's growing
That's
on
the
me.
one.
Yeah,
We'll buy
that's
that one.
right. The idea is growing on me. Let me put it that way. So good
Well,
stuff.
good stuff. Great stuff. Good conversation. Hopefully, this has maybe triggered something in one of our listeners' minds to even just take the plunge and start researching and looking up and doing your own education on the benefits and the cons of franchising. So we want to wish you guys all a very Merry Christmas, a very happy holidays. We hope that you guys have a wonderful time doing whatever it is that you do during this time of year. And we will see you guys in our next episode. Bye.